Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the October meeting of the El Dorado County Fire Safe Council. Thank you. I feel it's a little bit like the movie White Christmas with Bing Crosby. We have the back doors open and it's not snow, but we've got rain coming. And so I don't think CAL FIRE is going to open burning. So we want to encourage everybody not to burn after the quarter of an inch of rain, right, Jeff?
10%
Yes.
so for the weekend, right?
Yes, we have weather, bad weather coming here later in the week. So no, again, thank you, everybody. Want to make sure everybody signs in. The sign-in sheets are at the back of the room. So if you're attending, certainly if you're a director, please sign in so we can track attendance for vote purposes. With that, I'd like everyone to stand. We'll face the flag and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, so again, kind of following our new format under the Thank you. Following our new format under the consent calendar, we're adding a number of items that are going to be those things that are routine, either monthly or periodically. So item 4 of consent calendar, in addition to the meeting agenda and board meeting minutes from last month's meeting, I've also added Associate Fire Safe Council boundary adjustments per bylaw section 14.04. And as you recall from previous meetings, we went back and reviewed the bylaws and we really, as we're making boundary adjustments over time, we really need to come back to the full board to ensure that everyone's on board, and we technically need to approve that. The board directors in your handouts received a list that had the different councils. I believe there were 4 councils that Angel's been working on that had all of those adjustments. So new councils, those will always be part of a new business item for a dedicated vote, but periodically, potentially about every 4 to 6 months, if we're making additional adjustments to boundaries. And again, some of these are just moving one parcel here or moving a road there to try to remove the white spaces and clean those things up. So that's what all of these represent. So going forward, they'll be on the consent calendar. You'll have a chance to look at them before the meeting. So with that, bringing that forward, any questions or comments on the consent calendar? Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent calendar signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, consent calendar approved as presented. Thank you. Okay, next up, item 5 under new business. Paul Penn is going to challenge my technical skills with a remote PowerPoint presentation. So just give me 1 second to fire all this up. And he's gonna be, as you recall, he gave a presentation last month on the status of the Futuring Planning Task Group. And part of that was going back to the executive board with a recommendation regarding an executive coordinator. So Paul's prepared to bring this discussion back today before the group. So hang on.
Morning, everyone. Better want to move like Sunday as a kid, right? Want to get a beat on me that way. Just to reflect, we were asked to work on, we call it a futuring group, but it's really strategic planning and how it evolved. So what I'd like to do is go over some of the basics that we worked on, and then I'm going to go over each item, but then I'm going to do it from the end back to the beginning, because way too often.
I'm hearing, hang on, I'm hearing some feedback. If somebody have their computer on. Oh, Hugh, can you check that? Yeah, it may just be the volume. Yeah, I think it's that. I think the computer's audio is up there. Yeah.
I'll push buttons at random. For the goal to. Okay.
Right.
But I'm going to provide it. So, often what you do is you have a big issue and you discuss that to the end, then you rush through all the other items. I'm going to start at the end and work our way back. Everyone, and this will work is, if everyone is, good with this, we can act on it now, but if you want to really think about it, we can bring it up, for final action at the November meeting. Come on. Which one's around?
Want me to advance it for you?
Didn't work earlier, let's see. There, okay. Oh. This is our core group. Dorothy, Elizabeth, Tamara, Steve, and myself, and we met quite a number of times. We tried to figure out what sort of organizational structures we want to engage in. We've grown so quickly and expanded so much that too often organizations like this, you kind of lose control. And we want to have some idea of where we want to go so that we can maximize our effectiveness. So what we want to do, we wanted to create recommendations that can act as a framework for the programs that we're developing. And they say here in the problem statement that we had just massive growth and sometimes they can get away from us. Also, we are a volunteer organization. And if you put too much burden on volunteers, you burn them out. And so we don't want that to happen. So essentially, we talked about the growth of this. We talked about how much money we're pushing through, and we want to make sure that as volunteers, we maximize our potential success. So as I say here, we want to consider we have an increased workload. So do we hire folks? Do we still rely on volunteers? And our recommendation is a hybrid thereof, right? And then do we have enough money? We also know too many organizations, they build up and they don't have enough funding to sustain themselves and they crash. Or it's difficult to hire because if you only have a year's worth of being able to hire people and people aren't willing to accept the position if there isn't that opportunity for long-term employment. And then do we move to something like an executive director, executive coordinator? And we had large discussions at the e-board on this, but it's really for you to decide on where we want to go. And then how can we effectively manage the growth? So many years ago, I was a Nevada County Planning Commissioner, and whenever they would present a proposal to the commission, the first question was, what's going to happen if we do nothing? And then you try to make sure whatever you do is better than doing nothing. Okay? So I'm going to run to the end, and we'll take it from here. Okay. When we're doing this project, I reached out to a number of other Fire State Council, Santa Cruz, Marin County, and one of the things these places emphasize is that you're much better to have a stable organization. We have a stable level of funding. We rely almost entirely on grants. And so I'm not proposing anything specific, but these are just some recommendations for us to look at. Some places actually have passed a local proposition to fund the Fire State Council. Sometimes the Board of Supervisors provides them an annual allotment that's fairly well fixed. Sometimes they create a CSD, whatever it might be, but this is just something that has given stability and allowed these organizations to really thrive. And this is really, so I'm going to go through all these and I want to have discussion. So are there questions on this or any thoughts about this? I know, David, you had, asked a question about this when I went over it briefly last time.
Well, this time I have a different thought.
Oh, no, Gary, everybody run.
Oh,
Another thought.
Another model to study is some of the counties support their land trust through various grants and funding systems. And that's another 501c3 funding mechanism. So San Joaquin, Stanislaus, Madera, Merced, City of Stockton, they all support agricultural land trust and and they have assistant producers. So it's just one more thing to look at, another way of getting a 501(c)(3) fund for Wellington.
Very good.
Thank you.
So basically, what they were saying that you can do like similar to what the land trusts do in other states is that. So there's nothing specific here, just the idea is that we need, if the opportunities arise or it's something that we want to take on, to do to establish some sort of stabilized local funding. It also means we got skin in the game. I've worked with a lot of organizations that work entirely off grants, and they go, "We don't have a grant, we're not going to do it." And so it adds to skin in the game. Any questions or thoughts on this topic? One thing that organizations get caught up in is not doing adequate fiscal work to be able to ensure that we handle our money appropriately. Now, I recognize one of the big motivators is the burden it places on our treasurer, right? Janet, retired and sure doesn't feel like she's retired. Right? So we went from cranking out $12,000 a year to $12 million a year.
It's close.
Unless Tamara get into the shade, coordinating on all the, expenditure funds and tracking everything is a nightmare, especially when you've got 27 million different funding sources. So one of the keys here is that we have to be, we have to be extreme in our fiscal responsibility. And as I say, to be able to withstand scrutiny at any time, and at times we also invite scrutiny. Okay, look, our books are open to anyone, anytime. We want to make sure that when we will get audited, certain point for something, and we need to make sure that we can stand on our own, right? And this has caused many organizations didn't do this right to either fold or lose face in the community or got in big trouble, right? And they say that a friend will bail you out of jail, right? But a real friend will be sitting in the cell next. So, any questions, thoughts on this? Good.
Makes sense to have an annual audit.
We do have an annual audit, correct? For a couple of years.
We were doing them, this is Janet, the treasurer. We were doing them every couple of years. We did one for 22-23, and I just initiated one for 23-24. Tamara let us know that some of our grantors are starting to require us to do annual audits. And so probably from here on out, we will be doing an annual audit.
Many organizations. Speak on them if you want to have a different view. We want to, we want to be advocates. We want to be able to advocate in almost every forum that's appropriate for us to be. But sometimes you can cross the line, so we need to be able that we walk that line appropriately. But it means not only in the county, there are times when, let's say, the state legislature, they're having hearings on related forest management, vegetation management, fire prevention, things like that. We want to be the poster child of how to do it right. And we want to be able to be advocates, because I think other places around the state and the country are probably looking at us because we're doing some amazing work. And we just want to make sure that we do this and we do it well, and it doesn't impact our 501(c)(3) status. Questions, thoughts on this? Most of these are kind of gimmies, right? That's why I want to get rid of address these initially. As time goes on, we will become, I think, more emphasis on public information and education. And so this is where, and as OOPR grows and matures, they'll be taking on some of the things that we had done in some of the other organizations as we all mature in this universe. So I believe that, I think the group agreed that we, that information to the public and education will even grow more as our mission. So we talked about, we want to make sure we have strong support to the new fire safe council, in our midst, because everyone's different, they all need, some care and feeding. We want to provide information for clarity, for those folks, to be able to answer questions. And those all, come up often. We also want to engage in those people whose mission is not our mission. Again, we listed here, service organizations, local government, faith and community groups, so create that speakers bureau, so that we can spread the word everywhere within the community. We want to be able to, develop, deliver, and improve education and training to meet the needs of this council, the Associate Fire Safe Councils, our allied organizations, and the community at large, right? And then often you take the same material and you just tailor it to those different audiences. And as I say, to disseminate generated materials as appropriate within and external to El Dorado County. If we can be the place where people look to in order to get real solutions to real challenges, not only are we servicing our country, our state and our country, but we're also increasing our status within organizations, and it will hopefully improve our success in accessing and getting grants. Any questions or thoughts on this? Alice, as education, what you have?
Well, actually, I have one question.
Sure.
So I'm a little confused. So are we talking fire safe council here? Because at one point I thought OWA.
No, we're talking fire safety. I mentioned that as OWOPR matures, and some things that we've been doing, they may be taking out more aspects of. So it's just a maturing process. Okay. Mr. Bay.
As you know, I've always got a lot of things to say.
What?
But it's this year about,
Right.
in a way, it's more, you're talking more general,
Mhm.
not specific. The item it's on our agenda.
Yeah, that's the item number 1. So we're working our way back to that.
He's getting this, Chris.
Yeah.
Is that what he said when he said he was gonna work his way back?
Yeah, and Chris, I introduced it that way so that he would do that. So please let him finish so he can put Chris, please let him finish. Okay.
So,
What we do is going to be critically important to Robert. You with that?
absolutely. We're all in this together. Very good. Any other questions, thoughts on the information or education component? Yeah.
Along with that, for an element of public relations. And the reason I mention that is because everybody has an opinion, sometimes they have a fact, sometimes not so much.
Right.
The information that's generated from an educational content standpoint could be perceived and in some cases. Was that taken under consideration for this discussion?
So if I can kind of summarize, that sometimes, often we all bring our biases, right? And that it's always important to examine your biases to make sure that they are not directing, that they're not skewing from a clear-eyed approach to something. That
Correct. I was just coming that with regards to what information educational, what you're saying, whether or not there is a public relations and associated with the way.
I would say yes.
And there always is. And you always have to examine what you're doing in order to ensure that you have an effective message, whether you're messaging or you're providing information, all those things. Many years ago, I wrote and taught the advanced public information officer for health and hospitals at the for the Fed, at the in Addison. And one of the exercises that we always did is we broke people into different kind of disciplines: emergency management, public health, hospitals. And one of the exercises we had is, who do you trust and who trusts you? Right? It was a great exercise because you recognize that people's biases and perceptions can impact what your mission is. And I think we've been pretty good at identifying that, but it's always a danger, and it always requires both self-reflection and impact from outside. Any other thoughts, questions on this topic? This will become more and more part of what we do, I believe. And the folks who are on the strategic planning group, or whatever we called it at the end, please feel free to chime in at any point. We are the grassroots organization. We are the folks who are often the closest to our neighbors. We are the ones in our communities that people look to us when it comes to fire prevention, vegetation management, and things like that. Even though often other organizations may be actually doing the work, but we are that point, and we really want to emphasize that we are, as they say, the grassroots and primary liaison to our neighborhoods. Thoughts, questions? The liaison function, those of us that are hardwired for incident command, know that this is really often the linchpin between outside organizations, and want to carry that over, that we want to make sure that we are actively involved with all the folks that deal with the stuff that we deal with. And that's not only OWASP or the fire prevention officers, and also that we maintain close contact with the associate fire safe councils, so they don't feel like they're out there spinning in the wind all by themselves. Again, most of these are just not controversial. These are just guidance for us in the future. Questions, thoughts? Yes.
Oh,
This is Linsky. Coming on down.
I would add, RCD and also so far for user strategy group too.
Those are absolutely part of the ones in our thought process. Right? You're all here on your own time, except for those of you that get paid here. But we are a volunteer organization, and we all know how difficult it is to recruit people. We have a core group in Diamond Spring Fire Safe Council, and it is the same 6 people. And we do all the work, and we have for years. And so we want to say for the County Fire Safe Council that it is okay, that they say, to expend resources to really get that recruitment up, to retain and support the volunteers, so they continue doing the work. We don't want them to do, well, as they say, work on an ambulance for many years. I say there are 3 things that take out people working on an ambulance. You got burnout, you got rust out, you got a bad back, right? So burnout is you just see too many things, you got too much stuff going on. We don't want to burn out people. And then your rust out is when people are members of organizations, they don't do anything, and they lose interest also. So we want to try to minimize that, and so say it's okay to do things to recruit, retain, and support these volunteers. You in the back?
Lester Lubecken has a question online. Go ahead, Lester.
I was just going to ask whether recommendation 4 seemed to, I didn't hear it getting discussed there, and it looked like it got skipped. And I was curious as to, kind of what scale is Paul thinking, or the group?
Well, my remote must have a mind of its own, so I skipped that. Thank you. Lester. So we're saying is, it's most of us had greenway states because we had some money and we taught and we sent it out to the associate fire safety. Too often organizations, they the head partner, they keep everything, or they take 27% off the top or whatever it might be. And I know that in our executive board, we have talked as much as possible. Let's get money out to the associate fire safety. And so when those opportunities come up, we really want to encourage giving you, the Associate Fire Safety Council, the resources to do things you want to do. And as you note that, recently, Ken sent out the memo that we can have $3,000 in order to do Greenway Gift. And we want to do that as much as possible to give you, most of you don't have a fundraising source. I did go to Pat's Lockdown hot dog social on Saturday, and but wherever possible, if we got money coming in when we can, we want to basically spread the wealth. Okay? And yes, Janet.
And finding grant opportunities for our Associate Fire Safe Councils. Tamara put together a grant that is providing funding as well. So Tamara's looking at opportunities to get support out to the Associate Fire Safe Councils.
Exactly. We want to push it and give people the opportunity to say, wherever possible, to make it unrestricted or minimally restricted. The funding folks say, you can only do this. And I say we try to use an expansive interpretation of the restrictions so that you can do the things you want, right? It may be, the Greenway Day isn't what you want to do. You want to do something different. We want to encourage that. We want to encourage people to be creative and to do the things that the community needs. And again, thank you, Lester, because I skipped over that inventory. So. Okay. So one of the things, again, in incident command, you just can't manage too many organizations or individuals at once, and so they call it a span of control. So I call it 1 to 5, meaning you have one supervisor for 5 subordinates, or it's really 3 to 7, but it's it just means that we've got 32 fire safe councils, and it's difficult to manage. So one of the thoughts has been, let's have zones or geographic activities, and that's why I brought this in the. Whoa, okay. You got me there. Please flag one. Thank you. You are. Okay. So in the work that has been done for the CWPP, they had brought up these kind of zones, right? And you have basically north planning, the east planning along 50, the western slope, the western part, Cameron Park and El Dorado Hills, and the south planning unit. And this is not locked in stone. This is just an idea. And we're not saying that these folks can't work with these people, but it's just a way to manage this, to make it, because we've gotten so large and somewhat unwieldy, and this is a way to manage this project, our project, and also to encourage people that have like circumstances. Cameron Park and El Dorado Hills are the more suburban part of our county. Here we have some of the more exurban, and here the more rural, just in general. So that we can encourage organizations, the fire safe councils, to work together on like projects such as our South County project, where we have 6 of the fire safe councils basically along Pleasant Valley and up to Omo, working together. Not only does it create cohesion, address like issues, but also increases our potential for funding, because it shows to the funding agencies that we're actually working together cooperatively. They like to see that sort of stuff. Okay, questions on this? Okay, any objections or things on? Besides, I know Tamara, you had yeah, Tamara. Tamara, you have been an advocate of something like this. Any thoughts on this?
Well, I just have noticed that for me, like having a larger fire safe council has made it easier to kind of coordinate across a larger landscape. It's almost like we already have our own zone because we're so big. And so that's where the idea came from, with kind of to create the thinking around people working together more, more.
Yeah. Hey, so during the break, we keep this standing up. Sorry, I destroyed your tripod. That you put it on the floor for now. But take a look at this. This is not locked in stone, right? Oh, Walker, you're not locked specifically into this. But this is as good a start as any. And we haven't got some better.
Yeah. It's on the floor if you need to see it.
Yeah, folks,
Yeah, that's what they did for their CWPP, but it's just a way to create some geographical, I wouldn't say boundaries, but kind of established, areas, and we can use that for anything we want. What I do want to stay away from is multiple zones, right? That, this group has these zones and it goes like here, and this group goes like there, and, it makes, for crazy me. But yeah, these is just, a subdivision of, our fire safe council that we can do whatever we want. And it's just a way to do that. And nothing precludes working with folks who are in another area if you have activity.
if you like them,
What?
if you like them, then.
If you like it, right? Did that answer your question, Alice? Yeah, so because they call it a planning unit, doesn't really mean that we're gonna call it a planning unit. It's just a way to do some, to create, divisions, that allows us to work more effectively.
Hassan from Sierra Green. What does that add to the org chart or the bureaucracy?
That's a good question, right? If you have so many things in your org chart, and the answer is, it'll make things simple in some ways and maybe more complex in others.
Will the regional leaders?
I think I have something right after this, where, that we may have people where they say, hey, let's pay people a little, stipend in order to really encourage, that maximum engagement with the folks within their area. But yes, we know, when the org chart gets so squirrely, that you can't figure out who's who and what's what. And we want to avoid that, and by breaking this into fairly large areas, it doesn't get so, so crazy. But there's always a danger of that. Okay, any other thoughts on, what are essentially divisions, in order to manage, again, we've got 32 fire safe councils and 32 organizations, working only, up here. It's crazy for you and it's crazy for, the folks handling it. So the idea is to try and be able to give local decision making and, and encourage, folks, to work together. Any other question? A thought?
Good morning, I'm Lori, Grizzly Flat Fire Safe Council. I like your idea of dividing the western slope into 4 or 5 zones, whatever you want to call them. But I'm a little bit concerned that under Firewise, when we had communications with Firewise headquarters multiple times, they said that we covered too many elevations, even within our sphere of recognition. I hate to say this, Great Pines all the way up to 4,000 feet. And they said we had too many different vegetations that we were trying to just encompass within our sphere of recognition. I don't see how these 4 or 5 zones that you depicted, some of them are covering quite an extensive elevation change, everything from grasslands, shrubs, all the way up to, alpine, condition. So I don't know how you could divide the western slope into other types of zones to try to, consolidate elevation conditions, vegetation, for, Boston.
And you notice the sub-recommendation, we say, consider geographic, community, drainage, circulation, topographic, fire severity, and similar factors in the development of the region. And, and we look at that and say, in this county, it's tough, right? Firewise out of NFPA, right? And they're based in Massachusetts, right? Where it's really not much change until you get to the Berkshires, and even that's not too much. And so you're right, it is difficult, and no matter what we do, it will not be perfect. And again, the map that we just showed here was just what OWalker and the consultant, I believe, had put together for the purposes of the CWPP. We are not locked into that, and we can have our own input probably into those zones themselves. But whatever we do is not going to be perfect. And I think they did a good crack at it, but you're absolutely correct. Again, grasslands to the mountain. And I think what they have there is a good shot at it. Anyone's got a better way to do it. Again, we're not finalizing any zones now. We're just looking to ask whether the idea of zones are appropriate for the next step in our organization. Any other thoughts on that? Ernie brought up a really good point, and it's something that we also recognize. Chris.
Quickly, Ernie's point is a very valid point. It could be so valid that it might stop us from implementing this aspect of your overall plan. What's your thoughts on that?
My thought is that sometimes perfect is the enemy of good. That we want to get as close as we can, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, we change it. Again, it's not going to be perfect, and again, it's a concept, and we come up with a better way to break it down. But you'll see that we were looking at this, we had so many considerations. And when I went through the presentation on the CWPP and they had that map, I said, hey, this is a good start. Right? That's really for our organization down the road to determine whether we want to follow this or using other criteria. And answer your question? Gordon?
I'm like Ernie. Yeah, no.
Again, sometimes perfect is the enemy of good. Can you back it up? My machine's on drug here.
Minus 2 negative.
Okay.
Yep.
So now we're getting into the actual stamping. And again, working back, we kind of, and I want to thank Steve Willis for really doing the major legwork on some of the stuff we're talking about now in the position. So this is just an idea of some different configurations. You see, we have an executive director, an executive coordinator. We're not going to do 2 people. It's just that we're playing around with it. But just trying to look at how we can organize the activities, because we have so much going on in a way that's much more manageable. Okay? So you have these positions in play. Again, the executive director and executive coordinator. We have our admin assistant. We have our assistant program manager, or grant manager. That's what we have. Like these bottom 3 is what we have now, and this is kind of what we're considering. So here it is. And again, I want to work backwards because this is really the big issue that we need to make a decision on. And again, we don't necessarily need to make a decision today. We can do that at the next meeting. So basically, we're saying to modify the organizational structure to include compensated individuals to carry out the things we need to do. Because we have 32 fire safe council, we're cranking out 12 mil in grants and things like that. So these are just sometimes the more mundane stuff. Do we, do we want to become an employer, or do we do what we're currently doing as a contractor, working with an agency, right? And I don't think at this point we are prepared to become actual employers. And again, you know, people have other thoughts, we're welcome those. We want to identify the positions, you know, required, and develop the job descriptions. And in your packet, you did see job descriptions that have gone through a number of iterations. Steve worked on it, Ken worked on it, we all worked on it together. And then to hire or, you know, contract with people as appropriate. And one of the other things we said is, dealing with the other topic in terms of zones, it's a, consider providing support to regions in the form of compensated coordinator. That was one of the things we kind of batted around. So, I believe you had the job description of the executive coordinator in your packet, right? I know, Alice, you said you had some thoughts on it. Other folks, but here we had to kind of balance the thing. At this point in the organization, the difference between a coordinator and a director is they do a lot of the same things, but they're different in the fact that an executive director is much more independent, they're much more decision making. I think essentially the thought process among the E-board was, let's start off with somebody as a coordinator, and still taking much more direction from the volunteer board to help us to manage all the things we're doing that much better. And let us move to the next step. And if we keep growing, or it seems like we have the ability or the need to have somebody that is more independent to do that work, then we would consider moving to an executive director. And I don't know, Ken, do you want to chime in?
When Paul brought this to the executive board, one of the discussions we had was, okay, what is something like this? How does that fit into the organization? That we had a good discussion at the board about, you know, we're not an employer of folks. There's a lot that comes with that. And someday that, you know, again, maybe where the board wants to go, but there's a lot that comes with, you know, managing people, HR, all those things. So the discussion was we would continue to pursue a position, whatever position is approved, through using the temp help agencies. In our case, it's Search Pros. So at the request of the E-board, Janet and I took the draft duty statement and shared it with Search Pros to say, what does something like this look like? Are we in the ballpark? Are you familiar with an executive coordinator type position? And they were absolutely came back instantly and said, absolutely. We support a number of these kind, particularly with SMUD and some of their other partners where they're hiring folks to engage with some of their boards and some of their other projects. So they're definitely very familiar, and they even engage saying we have people on our list that might fit a bill like that if you determine you want to go forward and have a final duty statement. So we've got a kind of a broad, I mean, you know, what's somebody like this, what's the going rate for somebody like this? So we also sort of shopped that out a little bit. Obviously, we want to work within our budget, and we've had those discussions, but right now there's sort of a range between $30 and $40 an hour. And the Search Pros felt like that was this absolutely a doable, realistic salary rate. So again, everything there was just sort of on hold pending wherever we want to go. But this is certainly within the framework and ballpark of what a lot of organizations do. And we, you know, obviously E-board was discussing very directly with Tamara. She's already, her wheels are turning. If this is something that we do, how would we look for a grant again that would help us fund and coordinate that?
I believe in our discussion, we recognize that based on what we have now, we have sufficient funding for 4 to 5 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, the treasurer just walked away, but the yes, maybe that's a bad sign. Yeah, she's grabbing a mic in the back of the room. Well, he loud, Janet, we can't hear you.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, the average. So that, out of the way. Now. Like. Stand and very tall.
Just because you're sitting here, my guess is you're part of other organizations, volunteer organizations. It's just a wild guess, right? And how often are you in the position of being fiscally stable enough that you can actually look at hiring people 5 years down the road? That is a rarity, right? You're always scraping, you're doing hot dog socials and, bake sales and things like that. So we are in a marvelous opportunity to really grow on both the quantity and quality of the work we do. So other thoughts on these topics? First of all, Alice, and then I'll go to Paul. Okay, good.
I have known about this, how about two? One is, I think it's admirable that we're trying to look forward to people, and that's really good, and I think you guys have done a lot of really good stuff. One thing that worries me is I hear things like incident command. There are a lot of people here with firefighting experience and or emergency experience. And that's something, we have to go fast, we have to do it certain ways, steps and top down, and so when I hear things like that, we need to control. I worry that in volunteer organizations, you don't want to try to have so much control that you have to turn people off. Because it's not just a matter of trying to recruit people, you also want to keep the people you got. And so I think of one organization I've been where they had field trips and people would go out and do field trips, and then they made it so complicated and controlled and that it just kind of fell apart, nobody does it anymore. So, who knows what I mean? Anyway, so I just wanted to mention that careful that a lot of people here have that firefighting emergency thing. I'm not sure that's the best structure for volunteers. The second thing I want to mention, and this kind of goes back to what, and I'm sorry, I don't know his name. Yeah, great. I think he made a really important point, and it's not necessarily just public relations, but marketing. So it's not just getting information out there, getting education out there. We need to market our message, and so that whole marketing thing, I think, is where we need to be headed in the short term.
And I absolutely agree with both things you mentioned. We've all seen organizations that became so strict and so strident that you felt constrained, and that's one of the reasons we talked about unrestricted stuff to the fire, for the Associate Fire Safety Council. And you're right, sometimes people get so rigid that you lose the vim and vigor of the organization. And you're right, marketing. There's that old ad that used to play in Sacramento, like have a company without marketing is like winking at someone in the dark, right? You know what you're doing, but no one else does. Right? It's good. Hey, Paul, then we'll go to Tamara.
Great presentation. All the materials really good. I would just offer and ask maybe, and it's maybe the e-board to consider putting in aspects that this position would look at policies, procedures, and rules, not to make it restrictive with what you just said, but from the point of understanding how we conduct business so that there's flows and that it's known and that there's a artifact that articulates how that goes. And then if there's a change in it, it's recognized and understood. So I would just ask for that consideration.
Very good. Tamara. Yes.
On the hourly. Yeah, my viewers. building capacity versus gaining control, if that makes sense. So expanding, we have so many opportunities that we don't actually follow up on because we don't have the capacity as a mostly volunteer organization. So this is really, I felt like you were looking at it, how do we expand our capacity to take advantage of opportunities that are,
Yeah, and just, so my consulting firm, we just organized all of the incident grant system. We're about as creative as you can get, right? We just use that to help us be consistent with the people we work with and to give us some modicum of organizational structure because it helped us from being too off the.
Well, and I would just add on, I mean, there was a lot of purpose in the duty statement that the Futuring Committee brought forward to the e-board, and it was all about a lot of the questions that Alice is raising. If you read the line items of the proposed executive coordinator duty statement, there's no. The very first line is, carry out directions from the board of directors. And if you look at all of the elements underneath that, they're tasks to organize us. We have a staff now. We've got a grants coordinator. We've got a assistance program manager. We've got an assistant to the board. We have folks, and it's getting to where we need organizational structure to manage that. There's nothing in this duty statement that provides direction to the associate fire safe councils. It provides support. And so that's the point, is how do we organize our organization so that we're more efficient? We have structure, but it's how do we support the business of the fire safe councils? So I think really take a close look at that duty statement. And it's another reason why it's an executive coordinator right now and not an executive director. We really needed to grow this to make it fit our organization and make it work for you.
So used up way too much of your time. Tom.
Yeah, this is kind of a side. It sounds like most of this work that you've done had to do with personnel. And I was wondering if you would consider other things. Because what you were talking about the agency growing, and disseminating information, thought about any standards or practices for the information that the council is gathering, or is there any policy at all? The data that it has or it plans to get, anything like that?
I think that we tried to look at our existing situation and the impacts on the organization and how we could maximize the potential for effective control group. That was basically what we're looking at. But all those things are things that we can consider. Again, this is sort of like a step toward maturation. Okay. And again, I've seen too many organizations that didn't look at this stuff and then they ended up floundering. And this gives us at least some direction. These are only recommendations. It's a strategic planning activities that involve. So that's it. A very good comment. If you don't mind, I'd just like to ask the other members of the committee just quickly, if they have any thoughts or if I missed anything. So I'll start back here with Elizabeth. You have a thought? Steve? No. Okay.
I'll chime in.
Okay.
I think it is covered, and the biggest piece in all the discussion is to make sure that our voices as associate fire safe councils are heard, and to make sure that this board is helping to represent those pieces going out, because as it stands right now, there's not enough volunteer time to be able to get, as we've grown, to be able to get everything covered. And that's why we were looking at this.
Sarah?
It's been around that kind of education and publication. We didn't feel like this committee was the right place to make that. But what we were trying to do was create a structure and the capability for that to happen in the future. So, I mean, absolutely education and outreach is huge. And we need a good plan.
And it'll probably grow more. So how about this? Rather than acting on this today, I think we've had some good discussion. If you have comments on this, please provide it to the chair. And we'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting, for adoption, if that's acceptable to everyone. And then, and again, we're not locking, people into, all these 10 items. This just gives us a framework so that we can grow effectively and do the best things we can, within our mission.
Within adopting the framework or adopting the coordinator?
I'd say adopting the whole framework, including the coordinator position. Okay, does that work? Any thoughts, any objections?
Yeah, I have an objection.
Okay,
My thought is that this is structurally built around the strategic planning task group.
right,
I believe that group heard comments today that requires them to have some consideration and not rely on our chair to be filtering information that we might do over this time period that we described that we're in. So my thought is it goes to the planning task group, not to the chair. Yes, it could go to the chair, but not quite.
well, how about this, why don't we just, use the chair as the clearinghouse, so we go in, he can forward it to us, and we can have ourselves.
No, hey, Paul, clearly there's a concern here. Let me make it clear, I don't ever filter any information, so, but at the end of the day, I want to take that implication completely off the table. So here's what we're gonna do, is the e-board meets again, the first Wednesday in November. So I will put out an email, but we will solicit comments back to somewhere. I'll put that out. I want it to be Dorothy somewhere. I'll let you all know, but I will make it really clear what we're asking you all to do and what you're to comment on. We'll get it to Dorothy, who's representing the group, the steering committee at e-board. That group can meet and discuss. We will discuss it at the e-board and be prepared to bring back the next set of recommendations based on all of your input. All of your input. All right.
Good, man. You're sleeping in the first Wednesday in November.
Probably a good call. All right, well, Paul, thank you, Paul. Is again, a lot of work by the steering committee went into try, again, it's never easy to move an organization forward, and we asked that group and all of us to really be thoughtful about where we're going. And these are the kind of discussions we need to have to bring us into that next future that we're headed. So thank you. All right, next up, item 6, old business. Item 6A, Community Wildfire Protection Plan. I know there's been a lot of activity here in the last month, but I'll turn it to Tamara as the Fire Safe Council representative to the steering committee.
The thing that I have to report on from the last month is our public meetings, which held 5 meetings, one in South County, one in North County, one in Cameron Park, Palatine, and Diamond Spring. And they were, I don't know what other people, how many people in this room went to a public meeting? Yeah. I was personally disappointed at the turnout. We did a huge push up in Georgetown to get people there, and we had, I think, around 40 people, and it might have been the most heavily attended meeting, or I think Diamond Springs had about that many people. Mostly Fire Safe Council people were there, left the general public. I'm just not sure what to do to get more people to come to these meetings. We will have another opportunity to get the public, and we'll be having 2 more meetings. I think, I can't remember when, sometime later, January or something. I was seeing these meetings as a way to start engaging the public more in kind of what we're doing in terms of fire prevention and mitigation on the Western Slope. And so maybe this is something we can be talking about with our public relations work, is how do we use some of these tools? But that said, there were several of us who facilitated the breakout groups. So the format was that we did a short presentation, and then there were breakout groups where people could talk about their fears and their worries about fire prevention. they talk about what was working, what wasn't working, and then suggestion. And I felt like that we got a lot of really good kind of information and suggestions and engagement on that piece. So I thought the structure of the workshops were really good. Anybody else have any comments?
I agree.
Workshops went?
I agree.
Yeah, we sort of reworked it. And I felt the way it worked was very engaging. I was just disappointed that there weren't more people there to be engaged. So that's, next up. We are meeting.
Yeah, I had a comment.
Did you find the same things pretty much a lot up at all times?
So Alex we found the same things pretty much brought up at all 5. And I mean, there were definitely some themes throughout, but then there would be quite often like, oh my gosh, that's a really good idea. So there were actually some really interesting feedback.
So here's what I think's happening. There's so much information out there right now on so many different subjects that people are getting kind of confused. I'm talking about the general public now, not us. Okay, and if you agree with that, then there has to be a process that we implement that essentially gets us what we need. And we've had this CWPP processes in the past, this group has. And this is the first time I've ever seen such a deliberate and a very direct to the benefit of the county. The county doesn't know that this is a major adjustment to what we've done in the past. So again, back to communication, back to what you just said.
Well, and to that point, there is the survey, the public survey is still open. It'll be open until October 31st, and that's another opportunity for people to respond. And we have what, 1,200, 1,500 responses so far? Do you know, Tom?
We're at 12 this morning.
We're 1,200, which is, pretty good. Yeah. So I think Tanya sent out an email, or somebody, I don't know. We sent out an email with the survey link again. So if you can send that out to, through all of your channels, really pushing people to, or encouraging people to respond, that would be helpful. That's another way. Yeah.
Tamara, just a question. So I'm not sure what communication channels we're using. One that
We have to speak up, Paul.
I'm sorry. The communication channels I think are important, and I share your pain getting people to things. So in Cameron Park, we've had a challenge with that as well. I think a tool that could be leveraged from a communications point of view is working with our partners to forward our communications out to their stakeholders that would be concerned. So for instance, the fire districts, SMUD, PG&E, so forth, and leverage that as a kind of a broadcast, because I believe it's common practice in the fire service that they will promote other fire service activities for awareness. And so I think that might be something we could do. And
social media, our key sign, would you drive by? We made banners. We spent our own fire safety council money to make banners and put 3 banners up in various parts on the divide. GPUD sent out a notice for us. So we did exactly that, and we got 40 people. So yeah, we had more people at our Garden Valley meeting. And so I'm also wondering if maybe we've just had too many things, in a short period of time, because that was in April. So it might just be there's just been too much, to your point. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Good morning, Bruce. This is Richard also. Listening to you guys, I'll have to agree with Chris. There's just a ton of information going out there right now. But thinking a little bit more long term, because I've been involved in past iterations in CWPP, we only talk about it when we're doing it. So as we're moving forward to the next, all of us need to incorporate how does this plan affect us in all of the things we're doing every year? How does it tie in? Because the question that's not being answered for the public is what's in it for me? If they get all this influx of information and they're trying to sort out what they're supposed to pay attention to. If we can answer the question about what's in this plan for you, then I think we start to get more response over time. Thank you.
So I haven't heard it yet, and I don't know if it's part of the outreach and education plan. Is there any effort to infiltrate, I hate to use that word, school?
And that came up, that was a big suggestion, I think.
Tamara, get your microphone.
It's not a push button.
Yeah.
But one example I would like to point out is, Department of Fish and Wildlife, the program, will give classrooms an aquarium with trout. And then they coordinate with, like fly fishing groups. Getting trout, when the trout get to a certain age, to go out and release them into the river. I actually did that one. It seems a really great product, and that's one way to, you know, get out, if nothing else, affecting the next generation, be a little bit more actively considered.
So just comment, all really good suggestions, comments, and, you know, having been engaged in this from the beginning. A lot of folks asking as though it's this group doing all the work. So we all have schools in our 32 associate fire safe councils. We all have fire districts. We all have people. I think the expectation is that we're all engaged. There's no reason why we as associate fire safe councils can't have that engagement with our schools and get the word out. So I think this whole idea that there's this one group doing all of the work and we're just waiting for more information to come out. Well, we are that group. I mean, we all have email lists. I can tell you, and I'm embarrassed. In South County, it never went out. Our fire safe council didn't send the information out about the public workshops to any of our members, and it was challenging, right? So we've got our own issues inside to work, but I guess we own this plan. This isn't OWOP, this isn't CAL FIRE. This is our plan. And so if we want to get it to the schools, take it to the schools. There's nobody's stopping any of us from having our own outreach in our council district. We held this meeting at 2 schools, and we had the superintendent of the Pioneer School District at our meeting in Pioneer the first night. Actually, we had 3 schools. We had Golden Sierra as well in the Divide. So I guess my point being, yeah, these absolutely, you're all 100% right. But at the same time, it's up to all of us to do this legwork too, right? So it's not just telling someone else, did you talk to the school? No, did I ask the school, right? So I guess I just remind all of us that we are on information overload, but this is our opportunity to engage our community, and it's up to us.
I'm still mulling over what Bruce said and say, I'm still mulling over what Bruce said and no, because I'm done. So I'm thinking, helping the CWPP to help us get grants, as I understand, we need to have that in place. And it'll also help us with the risk assessment when we're renewing for our fire life. I think we need that. What else do we use CWPP to help us?
Long range planning.
Long range planning, like infernal year, like I think that's going to be the important for this. But anyway, excuse me.
David.
There it is.
Sure, and that's part of CWP is creating strategies for all the things that affect all of us. And, you know, we all hear from those people all the time. I mean, I don't know, I get calls from people all the time complaining about whatever they're complaining about. And, you know, I'm like, well, go to the public meeting, voice what, you know, your concern is. That's how you actually can make any change. So, so to your, I mean, I think we all hear that all the time. And so it's just responding, you know, you have to be involved and make and voice your for it to get addressed.
So I don't want to stifle the conversation, but this is perfect. But as they've been doing for almost 6 months now, Tom and the OWOPR team's been hosting a 1 o'clock meeting right here after the meetings. And so then encouraging, if there's more thoughts and concerns and dialogue, please stay for that. It's really that informal opportunity to try to get that feedback. So we're right deep in the middle of the process. So there's lots of opportunity to do those things. So I'm going to move us along on this. Tanya will be giving an update from the OWOPR perspective when she gets there. But we need to just keep flowing with the agenda. 6B, Dorothy, website update.
Right now, we're working with Streamline on the content of what's in our website. I know a few of the fire safe councils, some links were dropped. All that was done prior to moving over to Streamline. It was not Streamline's issue. Streamline has been working very diligently with us and collaboratively to be able to help correct issues. I know some of the websites out there for the affiliates, your picture, beautiful picture you had on there is now like 1/4 of an inch by 1/4 of an inch, and it's a little hard to see. So and they can't recover that picture. Very sorry. So if you have a picture you want posted now, send it to the Camino Fire Safe Council at gmail.com in a JPEG, and I'll make sure that it gets forwarded over to Streamline. Then until then, we're waiting until it becomes a little bit closer with the design. End of report.
Thanks, Dorothy, and thank you to that group that's been working hard on that. So item 7A, Chair's report and communication. So I have a couple of things briefly just to hit real quick, and a lot of it really centers on sort of how we manage our meetings here and sort of the decorum we have at the meeting. We have a lot of information to discuss at these meetings. We typically go over time because we want everyone to have an opportunity. And the value of these meetings is for all 32 fire safe councils and our partners and all of us to share happenings and what's going on. But the challenge with us growing to where we're at is that there isn't a lot of time. And when we have a long discussion like we had today, a critical discussion on futuring, it obviously takes up a lot of our time. So what I'm asking going forward is that let's all be respectful that others need to speak to, and that when we give our fire safe council reports, be clear, concise, have those reports specific to your fire safe council activities or things that you think are important to know about what's going on there. If there are items that aren't on the agenda, really need to let me or Carrie or somebody know at least a week in advance so we can get something agendized, because we're trying to build the agenda to squeeze in, make sure we get everything in that we need to take care of that month. And so when we get off into these other presentations that aren't on the agenda, it's taking valuable time away from others. So again, get information, ask early on if you want something on the agenda, and we can have that chat with you. Otherwise, I'm really just going to try to keep us moving, because we need to hear from each and every fire safe council and partner. That's the real key value of us getting together. Title III funds, I think it was discussed. You saw my email looking for the project descriptions I'm getting are perfect. We're not looking for a book. We're very clear on what we're using the funds for this go round. So just a quick email note so we can jot that down. We're tracking all of that, but we need your project. If you're requesting the funds, we just need that in by the end of November so that Janet can get it categorized and track it for us for the rest of the year. Remember, it's good for all the way up to August 31st of 2025. So we're trying to give that window to get that work done. So if you got questions, see us offline, but definitely respond back if you're interested in doing that. And then finally, just the audio visual work. I know, again, we're challenged here with some of the audio visual. I have a meeting Friday with the IT vendor who is helping us come up with a plan, and they've already started visualizing the space and have some recommendations they're going to start sharing this week. And then tonight, Janet and Hugh and I are meeting with the American Legion board at 6 o'clock just to get on the same page, make sure they're comfortable with what things that we want to do here at the facility and sort of build that partnership. And they've been very open to that discussion. So we'll be meeting with their board tonight to have that discussion. So with that, look at that vice chair's report. It's not deleted from the agenda. So yeah, Dorothy.
No report.
Thank you. Love it. Love it. Secretary's report, Angel. All right. I know there's a report for the treasurer. Here, you got it. You good.
No report.
No, doesn't work like that.
So, last month you all heard, about the August 30th, report, so I'm not going to report any further on that, although we do need to take action on that today. September's report, you have in front of you.
Let me just clarify, because there are different dates on everything. So it's in the agenda. The September report was what was presented, which is covered through the end of August. The October report is what we're talking about today, just to be clear.
Correct. So on your grant sheet, I closed out last summer's green waste days, so that you'll notice the difference that the Title III money for 21-22 has now been combined. We completed all of the reimbursements for the amount we set aside, and we are no longer setting aside for last year's green waste. Once we get the number of councils who are interested in this year's offering of Green Waste Day Title III funding, I will set aside money dedicated to that from our new appropriation of Title III. On your sheet, you will note that we, while we haven't signed all the grant paperwork for all of these, we have added the PG&E grant, which we got a press release that we were awarded for, the California Fire Safe Council grant that Tamara's been working on for education and outreach, the CAL FIRE DSpace grant, and the CAL FIRE Hazardous Tree grant. We can't spend from those yet until we actually sign the paperwork, but I did put them on the grant sheet so you could see that funding is coming. We were noticed today that the California Fire Safe Council DSpace grant will not be extended beyond the December 31st date. This is the grant that we have struggled to receive our reimbursement funding from. So I will be working with the California Fire Safe Council on getting the funds that they owe us to date, and how we're going to manage that grant going forward to the end of the year. And then David and I had a good conversation that just to share how our grants are managed. Many of them are done on a reimbursement basis. So all of the federal grants that we have for our Stevens Authority at the top of the page, our chipping grant that we have from CAL FIRE, are done on a advanced basis, meaning, for example, the RCD spends the money, they go out, do the project for all of the Stevens Authority, they send us a bill, I send the bill to the feds, they pay us, and then I pay the RCD back. The chipping, I get an actual advance from CAL FIRE. So we're generally not spending out of our money for those. It's a pass through, but I get the money before I pay the vendor. The exceptions to that are the California Fire Safe Council grant for DSpace. I actually have been spending money from that grant. They owe us some funding, and we will work through that. But we have a lot of outstanding grant funds shown on that sheet. It's all done on a reimbursement basis. So it's not that they aren't paying us, it's that we haven't asked for the reimbursement yet. So there was a concern that maybe they weren't paying us timely. With the exception of the one grant, everybody pays us on a timely basis when I ask for that reimbursement. So I have no concerns with our grantors not giving us the funds that we have. The other thing, as I mentioned earlier, I have initiated the audit for the 23-24 fiscal year. It is again with Vaughn Johnson from Eldorado, from Cameron Park. She did our last audit. She'll be sending us an audit engagement letter this week with a list of the things that she wants from me. It may require me reaching out to the associate councils to get expenditure information, because your information as you ask for reimbursements from us through Title III, those things may come up in her audit sample. So I may be reaching out to you. Don't be surprised, but nothing out of the ordinary. Finally, I have initiated our taxes for the 23-24 year as well, and hopefully we'll have those within the next month or so. End of report.
Any questions for Janet on the October treasurer's report? Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take this in two separate motions. I want to step back to the September treasurer's report. All those in favor of approving as presented last month and included in this month's packet, signify by saying aye.
Okay.
Any opposition? Okay, thank you. Then moving forward, second motion, October treasurer's report. All those in favor of approving the report as presented, signify by saying aye. Any opposition? Awesome. Thank you, Janet. Just a ton going on in there, and appreciate the additional information.
Thank you.
Okay, partners reports. I don't see anyone from BLM in the room or online, but I do see CAL FIRE, both Jeff Hogan, Patrick.
They rock, paper, scissors.
But either way, it's not gonna be enough where it's gonna actually bring the fuel moistures up, where it's gonna, I was in a situation where we called fires and have open burning. So for now, and in fact, we're expecting a red flag event here on Thursday through Saturday. So everybody, there's potentially some other impacts going on with utilities with that as well. So still be diligent as we work through these last couple months here. Everything is fully pure. A little bit of moisture is not going to make a difference, especially when we get these winds coming in. This is when we have our largest events typically in the state at the end of the parks. So with that, we do have the opportunity. CAL FIRE does intend to start working on some of our DMPs, so we will be doing some prescribed burning. So just be aware of that. And other than that, all I have, are there any questions on what I covered or anything else?
What a nice public information thing that we can send out.
Well, we post something on social media, talk with Wendy about doing, share that as well. And I can look into the contact you, see if they're having any other, what press release. Yeah.
My wife wants to know, do you think about red flag warnings when you're doing your prescribed burning? She's worried that when you have a prescribed burn, that somehow that the red flag will cause a bigger problem for you than the removal of the vegetation at that point. So,
right.
Can you answer her, please?
Yeah, sure. So, obviously we go through a lot of planning, on these things. There's a large approval process that goes through. We have some of these larger events, like a weather event that's gonna, potentially impact here. We suspend burning until we know it's safe to do so.
Okay.
And then after we do prescribed burns, we have full status for all those. We have all the hotspots that are picked up just in case an event comes in. Maybe not well predicted.
I'll tell her, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, regarding prescribed birds and
The big or once. I don't have that information. Again, kind of weather dependent, resource dependent. And local town chief work with Patrick team and this will process on the next thing. Patrick, yep.
Yeah, I will just say that. Oval Ranch Road has well. As far as grants, due to report. Grants needs to be notified. Wildfire prevention grants that were awarded. Now everybody's asking when they signed the contract that started, we don't have an exact date yet, but. And no word on an round of grants yet.
Great. Thank you, Patrick and Jeff, and definitely Patrick, thanks for all the help on those. Office of Wildfire Preparedness and Resilience, Tom and Tanya.
Good.
So are wrapping up out in the Crystal Boulevard County Emphasis area. They're through second inspections and working on wrapping up or getting third inspection scheduled. And then with that, CBA, one of the biggest challenges was inability to issue an inspection, primarily lock gates and not infrastructure. But that did allow us to kind of tailor what we're doing in terms of identification materials and information that we're using for those homeowners for schedule an inspection. So we originally hoped to have that one wrapped up by the end of September, but we'll be working on that kind of figure with our next inspection area, which is the Gilmore area up in Pollock Pine. Our inspectors started the inspection this week and we'll anticipate that going through the end of December. After that, we're looking at the Hank County Emphasis area and tentatively looking at the first week of December, our informational workshop for that. So as we get close to that, reminder for the department going out the mail. Working with the Fire Safe Council and Health Department. We're also working to wrap up our implementation guidelines for the updated defensive space ordinance and anticipate taking that back to the defensive space ordinance very soon. Insurance discounts. So activity is kind of waned off over the last couple of months, but we are still getting requests for guidance or information from residents and communities looking at how to approach their insurance provider, what documentation that they need to provide to request their discount. So again, the two community level discounts are for Firewise and the Fire Risk Reduction Community List or PURPLE. The remaining discount options are for different home hardening measures and also defensible base requirements. So just a reminder that we do have information on our website under insurance tab with some guidance for requesting those discounts, and then feel free to spread the word to your community so they can reach out to them. For the Weber Creek project, Jenny's not here today, but has been incredibly busy doing a lot of the background work and preparing for the next steps of this project. Right now, preparing to go out to bid for a construction manager. So she's developing the bid package for that. And then also wrapping up the master agreement, right party agreement, right of way document to get that all ready to go. We did have an opportunity to take a look at our project boundary again and had a handful of parcels that were within close proximity to our original boundary and get it up closer to the original 525 parcels. Mainly ones that looked like they weren't, but looked like they were intentionally carved out of the project boundary. So went through an assessment with those and working with Calories and FEMA to get those officially added, and then working with our environmental review consultant to get those added to that whole process. That we can have our no issue list submitted to FEMA here shortly. Firewise, just a reminder that the renewal deadline is quickly approaching. It got revised to November 22nd. And for your community, if you need any assistance with that renewal process, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. specifically Richie Galvin as our regional coordinator, and help you through that. And then, one of the other things that we're working on right now is putting together an annual report and presentation that will be going to the board of supervisors in December. So it'll be a written report and then also just a overview, with our partner agencies, talking about all the things that collectively we've been able to accomplish over this year. And then also asking the board to endorse our work plan for 2025. And that is my report. Are there any questions? Sonia, take it away.
So, somebody has been having other meetings. The those and did have other meetings into the event. We had those. There is a transportation, water agency, Garden Valley Fire, Pioneer Indian School District, and School Advisor. I all went, so those were shared from the other agencies. We also had big signs things in front of stations 9 and then Spring, 17 and Holland Pines, and 23 at Oak Hill, as well as a sign at the Pioneer First Permit. The marquee sign at station, marquee sign at station 7, Rescue Fire Department and Garden Valley Fire Department all put a message on their marquee sign. Flyers were hung around bulletin boards all around the county. We did a full page article in the Mountain Democrat on Wednesday workshop and in the Georgetown event on Thursday before the workshop. We did an email all of the Colorado County employees. 1,900 people. Also, right, the weekend before the workshop, our office attached at the cops broader clean water event, fire, marketing, everything that. And also I attended fire. We had many workshops and discussions. Even how important and put it fire safety competition. The plan. So the public survey has been running for now 6 weeks. We're at 1,200 surveyors this morning. It will stay open until the end of October, and so we would like final questions to go out. Our office now a half-page article in the Democrat has got back questions on the guidance sheet with how did you hear about that? And the one that has the most responses to not spend. So we have an article in survey and the stakeholder survey has gone out and we got quite a bit of response that and just so you know, 8 of the 32 fires they fire victims that have not actually input. It may have been that your fire filled out surveys and asked for input. But if I get any more input, to me, there's some keeping it. And for that 2 weeks for our. While we were having the workshop, the work period. So, during the time we were not at the workshop, Kelly and I went many sites around the county, places that they felt like they wanted to do a little bit more follow-up after the big site tour. So we spent time out South County, time out North County, and also went down to Fairfax. Right. So places that a lot of time. Why adjustments, and additionally, on top of that, both lines, I do not. Fire. So they're going. So what? Made for that, or some. That and
I have that question.
Well, public science. And there was that. Right. In total, 5 workshops.
Right.
No. No. Okay, just for the principal space video that I showed you last month, I tried the umpire to the main. On their Facebook page. Also, as far as events, like I mentioned, we're at the Cross the Water event, something that our public outreach group is talking about more. That was pretty good then, right? And yeah, it's really just maybe for event elements. Also, Jen and I, the California Wildfire Forces, there, and my grant coordinator was there. We also director and technically my grant coordinator. So, yeah, what you guys are doing. I'm still attending Fire State Council meetings from the month. I will be going to see and make hills. And tomorrow evening, Tom and I will be visiting Kingston Fire State Council. My report is due at the end of the month. So my is very full. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see the comment for.
Yeah.
Residents and all the other now. I believe the number is something like 76,000 residences. Means you've gotten roughly 2% response. When you consider West Slope only, it's probably about 3% response for 1 in every 30 households.
He's actually, I think I didn't have.
And I think that our workshops, were run so well, and our partner has done local call fire at all of the workshops. As well as fire, main presence part of that application as well. So your fire personnel showed up. It was everybody that was told that we will need great fire. So, it's a really good to that. 2 more weeks.
Great, thank you, Tanya. Lots there. Again, 1 o'clock here. If you want to come to the informal workshop, is a great place to get caught up on the CWPP. Number 4, item 4, Fire Chiefs Association. I see we have Chief Cordero online. Chief, you have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you, Ken. From the Fire Chiefs Association, just kind of re-echoing the comments by our partners with CAL FIRE with, there is that little bit of rain, but, this is still the time of year and we're going to roll into red flag Thursday and Friday. And with that, locally, we are working with Cal OES. We'll be upstaffing some additional resources in the county Thursday night through Saturday morning, just proactively with the red flag conditions. We're also working with our partner agencies in the county on the Homeland Security grant funding. We'll be looking to purchase countywide some active shooter PPE for all of our fire agencies to better equip our crews and make sure that in the event that those type of calls occur, that we're prepared and able to function in that arena. And then just an update on the Mosquito Bridge project that is still moving forward. The contractor that's heading that program up is working with the local fire agencies, just so we're both, everybody's on the same page in the event of some type of emergency or something like that that would occur out at that bridge site. So we're cross-trained with their folks. But other than that, we're kind of, like I said, getting geared up, waiting to see what this red flag weather event produces for us. Hopefully we get through it peacefully, but we'll let you know next week. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, seeing no questions. Sorry. Great, seeing no questions. Thanks, Chief Cordero.
Thank you.
Next up, fire prevention officers, Captain Shepard.
Hello, everybody. FBO update. We've got our meeting tomorrow down at Station 85, and we're going to be going over our new officer nominations, getting that leadership group set in place for the next year. We've got a regulations and standards committee that we formed to address and make sure we're staying up to date and in step with current code standards and regulations. So when folks want to build something or they need water supply or something like that, we're in the right range of acceptability with the fire code and also practical application. And we're working in partnership with the county on an updated VHR checklist so that when those fire and life safety inspections are done for having a VHR, we're partnering with the county to make sure that everybody's on the same page and it works both for the customer as well as the fire agencies doing those inspections. And that's really it, unless you have any questions, comments, or concerns.
Any questions for Lucas? Great, thank you, Lucas, as always. Okay, I don't see any one from the El Dorado National Forest, so I will defer to Courtney for the RCD.
Good. Okay, well, I wanted to talk about Placerville Community Welfare Strategy. So another survey for you. So I have an app. They're trying to fit out on today. Much of like by the end of today. It's not that we won't take it later, but we'd like to start going more. And so they're in compliance. So if you could scan that, it really literally only takes to put in your hotspot that you think needs attention and why it is a hotspot for your community. And all of this information will be added to the strategy. So as it goes, as you have more people who are identifying the same project, I really encourage you to utilize this to make your voice heard. The other thing is we will be having
Courtney, does this apply to just the area within your project right now? This the survey.
outside of that. Project, outside of that, but for the Placerville community wildfire strategy, it needs to be within that boundary. And that goes beyond the city limits. It includes Camino and Pollock Pines and some South County and Diamond Springs, Cold Springs area. So it's a pretty big area because it all affects the Placerville civic limits, and we want to make sure that we have a good plan for defense. We're also going to be having a public meeting on November 14th, and that will be at the town hall, 5:30 to 7 o'clock. We had our public meeting in September and as Tanya and everyone has experienced. It was an okay response. We were happy that it wasn't empty. We had about 45 people, a lot of people from Fire State Council that were there asking questions and helping provide great. But so that was really nice to have there. And then this will be our meeting in November. We'll be able to share the information and mapping that we collected over these months. For the meeting is 5:30 to 7 o'clock at the Placerville downtown.
What was the date?
14th of November.
Please attend there. We are still having meetings, one-on-one meetings with partners to get there. So that's all I have. Yes.
When we were talking about the getting communication out, making sure that people understand, which is really the answer to all our problems. I noted that on the 2 flyers, you have this thing called Placerville Wildfire Resilience Strategy, but on the other one, you have a City of Placerville Community Wildlife Resilience Strategy. That's confusing right there, because some people will see this flyer and it looks like it's the City of Placerville, where this one really is the best one because it shows the map and it's Placerville meetings area in my mind. So can you speak to that point of trying to be consistent in your role?
Well, that's they're 2 different things. That city platforms across the board. The other is that invitation to our workshop. So, great. Words matter. So
Okay, thank you.
Quick question, Courtney, just for the group. I know because there's a lot going on. We talked about, survey overload. I guess my question is, sounds like a lot of the information that this effort's collecting is very similar to the CWPP. How is that effort being coordinated?
and have been coordinating sharing with them. So they've been in coordination, so sharing hours. We want it to be consistent because we want this to be a complement to the CWPP. And this is actually, I know that it seems like a lot having 2 surveys, but it's a great time to have this all done at once so that it can be together. And the plans are a little different, and we're concentrating more on plans and project planning. that does not include things. So that's, you know, clearly that one of the important passages.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, so Eric Brown couldn't be here today. I have not heard from Mike Webb. I know PG&E is busy, but I do have Sashi on our email list. I know she was introduced at the last meeting, so hopefully going forward, you know, we'll have a good connection there. Moving forward to the EDSO, Office of Emergency Services, we do have Chief Mike Lilienthal today.
I guess what your work from PG position is. So they, if you're saying about 2 o'clock, that's expected to go through Saturdays. The scope of that, according to PG local experience, is mostly east of all the pines up that stuff. As far as preparing to be there. We're still working on our evacuation plan for the west slope. We did finish the top of the basin. For those of you that you probably heard me say that a couple of times. There's been a lot of conversation on that plan. We've been on the top of talking to different stakeholders and had some great conversations. But that plan is in place, available on the OES website for see that. Working on the west slope plan over the next 6 to 8 years. So we kind of have this product down here. We are in the process of planning the 2025 drills that we had, the evacuation drills in town halls. And I think the problems you're seeing with the participation you all have, a number of groups, and I'm hearing the theme process, as much as we can coordinate and try and, you know, consolidate our efforts together, we'll try and do that with this group, but they'll walk with everybody else and see if we can be as efficient as possible with those. There's a disaster council meeting coming up on November 13th. That's our twice a year meeting we hold. So that'll be November 13th with the sheriff's office. And then we have 2 training tabletops going on. This year it's a hazmat MCI focus, but there'll be a lot of evacuation. We'll be opening the VOC and there'll be a lot of problems we throw in our team as we practice and prepare for major disaster. Those translate over to wildfire these type of disasters. So one is focused on the west slope, one is focused on the top basic side. And then lastly, we had a great meeting with Watch Duty, where they met with the OES staff. We're going to try and push our alert warnings directly to them, since they're getting so much traction and so many views coming off their website. We're going to try and give them good information. So what we are putting out is immediately verified and validated. So we met with them. We're working on a process where we'll send evacuation as part of our. With that, let's see the report.
Awesome. Right, seeing no questions. Thank you, Chief. No report today from Bureau of Reclamation. So we'll move on to program reports, grants and funding. Tamara.
So we got, to me, a surprise $100,000 grant PG&E for our defensible space program. We applied, so it shouldn't have been a surprise. It's just that it was one of those, well, you don't get it if you don't ask, but I wasn't expecting to get it because it was only, they only gave 1 grant in each of their 5 regions. So we were the only ones who got the grant in our region. Wow. So yeah. My surprise. So what's cool about this grant is it goes to the Defensible Space Assistance Program, of course, some to physical sponsorship, but we also put money in there for stipends for fire safe councils to do the assessments, volunteer assessments. So we don't know what that's going to look like exactly yet, so don't ask me. But there is money in there for stipends going forward, so hopefully that will help incentivize more fire safe councils to do evaluation. So that's exciting.
Awesome. Wow. Great. Thank you, Tamara. Any questions for Tamara? I know, sorry. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Assistance programs, Jessica. That's the.
Good morning, everyone.
year-to-date numbers for all three assistance programs. For September, for the chipping program, we have completed 546 jobs, cleared 905 acres, chipped 95,570 cubic yards, and spent $244,354. For our defensible space program, we evaluated 208 parcels, cleared 217. The average cost per parcel is running $1,169.39. And we've spent $276,391.86. Out of those completed parcels, we service 63 veterans, 194 seniors, 54 low income, and 60 disabled personnel. For our hazardous tree program, we have assessed 139 parcels, completed 177, identified 356 new trees. We've cut 430. The average tree is costing $949.25. And we've spent $450,687.25. Outside of that, I have got all the numbers. So if any of you are wanting a FireWise report, I can create one based off of zip codes for all three programs. I've already sent out quite a few, so you can email me at grantadmin@edcfiresafe.org. Any questions?
Good job.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay,
Else wants it.
moving on. Oh, sorry, you have a question? Oh, okay. Oh, excellent. Thanks. Training and Education Committee, Hugh.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Just briefly, I'm gonna give you a little update on the training, and then I'm gonna give it to Elizabeth, because she's got some stuff, if you haven't noticed, she's got a whole bunch of stuff in the back, she'll talk about that. But as far as the training group, the actual trainers, we're gonna set up a meeting in January. Those of you that are listening and they're here, I'll be calling a meeting to update all of our training materials. I have a complete package from CAL FIRE now, all the updated stuff. So we'll be updating that. I currently have 45 people already signed up for the class in April. A lot of those are people that signed up before that we had to postpone the class. They may or may not be interested. I'm not asking you, don't send me a request for the class yet. I'll be getting out to you to do that. We'll decide whether we're gonna have one or two classes, likely two. The other thing, I'm meeting with the Legion folks. In fact, I met with some of them this morning to try to look at dates that are available, trying to find 2 days in a row. There are some, unfortunately, because this hall is used so much, we don't have as much leeway in just picking days. So the days that we pick we probably won't have as big of a choice, but we'll be getting those out as we get closer. So with that, unless there are any questions about that, which I doubt there are, I'll turn it over to Elizabeth.
I got a question.
Oh, wait, Chris, I should have known.
No, I just want to make the opportunity available that 515 Main Street has the upstairs that has tables, chairs. We do, it's a fee, but it is available. And so if you need space, I just wanted you aware that space exists. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thanks, Chris. Okay, yes.
Just a real quick question. Is there a timeline for re-education or?
That's a good question. We do have, and the training group, we are talking about like after these meetings. Right now, CWPP is taking a lot of that up. But after these meetings, we'll be doing little short updates for those folks that have done training where we'll update you on new regulations, anything that's changing. So those things will be coming down the pipe. The training group has talked about that. We do plan to do that.
Okay, good.
So, yeah, so the base assessor program, we have worked hard, behind the scenes, and today we're happy to be able to roll out a few things for the people that are already trained as the principal state assessors. First of all, you've got all, copies of the CAL FIRE principal state assessment guide. Those are available, one copy per assessor. If you took the class, pass the class, you get a copy, please make sure I get your name marked off the list. We're trying to keep track of who has a copy, who doesn't. It costs a little money to silly things. The other thing we have for you, folks that have sent in their photo headshots, you have an ID over here on the table, come grab that. So you have your ID badge for doing assessments, and then finally you have gear bags. So the bags are one bag per fire safety council that has trained assessors, not one per assessor, but one per fire safety council. In the gear bags, you have a 100-foot tape measure, have orange cones that you can use to mark where 30 feet and 100 feet are if the property owner needs visual cues. You've got a laser pointer, which is helpful for pointing out, you know, eaves and, you know, things that may be up on the roof or where to trim a tree branch, that sort of thing that you can actually get to. You will need to charge that before you use it. There's binoculars. Also, each bag comes with 2 reflective vests. You need to pick out the sizes of your 2 vests. If there's more than 2 assessors per council, you're gonna have to share, sorry, so you're not to lock them up too bad, or Washington Clean Use, whatever. And that's what we have for you right now. So, and the bags need to be signed out, so I will need to get one so that we know where the bags are, and this gear is. And if you ever stop, if your council stops doing assessments, please give those bags back to the fire safety council. So you can get Heritage doing a great job of managing requests for defensive space assessments that are coming into the fire safety council. So back a couple months ago, Bill Walker had a nice flyer in the tax bills, and people were opening their tax bills and looking at this, and part of that flyer said if you wanted a defensive space assessment, contact the fire safety council. So we had approximately 30 properties request assessments, and we're that list getting people. And I've done it with those, and people are just really grateful to have the service out there. They, you know, they want to know what they can do, and I think it's a great way for us to connect with our communities and really get our mission statement and our mission purpose. Any questions?
This is actually a question more for Olafur, but is that going to be continuing to do? Because that was great. You guys put that in the property tax. Is that going to happen with every property tax? Well,
Excuse me, we'll consider that your years. We are limited to one insert. My opinion.
It's amazing. They guys try together.
So,
Thank you all.
we're
Go purchase the more
after.
Amazon.
Sorry.
Oh. Yeah. What's it called? Yeah, Harbor Policing. They're about the same price. It was since we ordered so many. It was easier to just get them through Amazon and delivered free.
And thank you, Elizabeth, and the team that's been continuing to work on the assessment program. It's a work in progress and definitely making strides. All right, outreach and education, Alice.
A few things. One is outreach season is kind of coming to a close. I want to really thank everybody who volunteered for all the many events this last summer, and also all the fire safety council have been doing a wonderful job of returning the stuff, marking it out when it's there, return. Really appreciate that. It's really been working well. We do have one last event, this Saturday actually, is going to be following the gardening over at the Sherwood Demonstration Garden, which is a lot of gardeners in the county, come from Master Gardener event. So, thank you. And Kathy always saw me, I think is the name. We just have one more spot there from 11 to 12, if anybody has an hour and they want to come, talk to people about defensible space, the next Fire Flash is starting to get going, and so please, if you have had any fall events like Lockdown, some news about your event and a photo or two, because I think we all learn from each other when we see what other fire safety council we're doing. Also, the grant that we had with the Art Council is coming to an end next month, and so there's a big push right now to some of the banners and look at banners in general. Kenneth Ministry and I are going to be meeting from 12 to 1 today to talk about that. If anybody wants to join us, you're welcome. And lastly, the Home Hardening House, thank you for a couple of people who volunteered to help us. That's fabulous. Before it actually gets going, we need to buy the several $1,000 trailer. And so I think if I'm understanding correctly, Janet, if I were to buy that now, it's me who might be out for a couple of months. So I'm going to wait until that's a little more solid. Is that true?
I'm sorry, I missed what funding source you were purchasing it out of. Yeah, so I put in a request in advance from them for the entire amount of our grant, but I would recommend you hang tight until we have that in hand.
So just that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Alice. New governance, new council formation orientation, Angel.
Hello, everyone. Today I don't have a report, but I do have a comment. And the comment is geared towards Loma Lotus Fire Safe Council, the City of Placerville Fire Safe Council. What do I say? I want to impress upon you the importance of accepting new areas into your Fire Safe Council. This past weekend, I attended an event in the Sundance Trail community where over 40 people attended that are very anxious and excited to be part of the City of Placerville Fire Safe Council. And what you find when you bring these new folks in is new energy, right, David? And actually volunteers, and they come to you. So I want to inspire you and encourage you to add new areas to your existing council. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice.
Oh, question, Angel.
It's not a question.
I mean,
It's not a question. I just recall that the bylaw section 1404 information that was in our consent calendar approval is to this subject that you're describing. And I just wanted to emphasize that we have information that was handed out that relates to your comment, which was a very good comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Angel. Okay, community council reports, an opportunity for us to do round robin of the councils for what's happening in your council area. Bob. Loma Lotus.
I don't want to keep it short, but since Angel mentioned it, I want to thank you for all their help. We have added quite a bit of territory to Loma Lotus. And I do want to comment that as a result, we're decentralizing the way we do things. We now have a number of communities, Loma Lotus, Sliver, Franklin Valley, Arrowhead, Riverwood, Woodbridge, and the Lumen area. And so I have recruited board members from each one of those areas so they can represent their particular areas. As a result, 3 of those areas have informed me that they want to do their own free waste programs. We also did a couple of our board members a drive-through of all the streets in these in a couple of the new areas, Woodridge and Thompson Hill. The Thompson Hill community is particularly engaged. I'm really impressed with that group. They, I think we had 6 of them and 2 board members in one car, but driving the streets. It's a one-way in community. I was kind of appalled. You go to the very top, highest point at the Thompson Hill community on a paved road and found a gate, a locked gate to another paved road. And it's a one-way in out community when that gate is locked. Otherwise, there's a paved road on the other side. So, you know, we're going to see what we can do about that. We also pointed out another area of American River Conservancy property that would like to have access to as a way out. So, and we also assessed with one of our assessors the professional space in Woodridge and Thompson Hill. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Good stuff. We have Sherry Hawk online. Sherry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
Well,
Thank you. Goldridge Forest Fire Safe Council. We had a meeting on September 26th, a pre-CWPP meeting. And although I was disappointed in the numbers, I was also happy for the numbers of people that we had, which was a whopping 12. But it was really, really great because we had Sierra Springs, part of their Fire Safe Council there. Heather Campbell showed up. We did have some residents from Pollock Pines, Goldridge, Sly Park Hills, Stark Grades area. It was really a great meeting and we had some really, really good conversations. One of the things that I think people were asking me when I advertised this meeting that it was going on, they wanted to know, how's that going to affect our insurance bill? That's all they're concerned about is what can you do for me in saving me money on insurance? So I know we have no control over that. We tried to explain to them the more that we do in this community, in our county, that the more likely we would be to be able to get, you know, better discounts. But it really laid on their own hands and taking care of their own properties. We did a presentation. We had great conversations. And one of the things that we were really lucky was to have some people from the school district because we do have Sierra Ridge and Pinewood Elementary here. And a great idea came up during that meeting. I believe it was from Kay Campbell, about bringing education into the classrooms, getting them at a young age, because youngsters will push their parents to do defensible space. If they are taught about it, they'll hound their parents. We also want to do something for the higher grades and maybe community projects, because that always looks good on a college application if they're volunteering in their community to help with fire safety as well. Anyway, it was a really, really great meeting. We had good input, great conversations. So I was really, really thrilled that all the hours we put into the presentation, people actually showed up. That's all I got.
Great report. Thank you, Sherry. Other comments? Yes.
Okay, just a few points. One is just general information for everybody. It seems as though traffic controls on Starks Grade are getting tightened up, where they'll even absolutely shut it down completely for periods of time. So just be aware, as part of PG&E's ongoing preparation for undergrounding, they really have started to work on that. Number 2, we have started our Firewise community reauthorization, and to tap into the point about encouraging or investigating bringing in new members or communities into our fire safe council. And also stepping into the point about a lot of people are interested to join either the fire safe council or become part of the Firewise community designation is to save on their insurance. Right. So that's just a point of information and re-emphasizing that might be a hook. Continue to look on getting people in. And then finally, we will be having our second dumpster day coming beginning of December. And that's it. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Like Dorothy is raising her hand.
I know, and I'm gonna put this under community council reports. In the back, there are free, fire safe council red bags. Please take them, use them, give them out at your events. If you have new people coming in, it's a great way to be able to add information, the workbooks. You can get that as a free gift from your fire safe council, but they're back in the back, so please use them. And Chris, I would have put it under vice chair report, but I was so excited to see I was on there that I forgot to say it then.
Thank you.
Right, other councils. Pat, Logtown.
Hey, Pat Dwyer, Logtown Fire Safe Council, just want to report that we had our 16th annual hot dog social last Saturday. 100 community members attended. The duty crew from County Fire, Chief Sterling, and the duty crew from County Fire were there and ate a bunch of hot dogs.
Yeah, and too.
We had other guests, thank you all for attending. And we, looks like we're gonna net now $3,000 for
Yeah, that's great.
We just need to get your secret sauce, Pat, to figure out how that works. Great job, Logtown. Others, Chris.
Chris Ranch Fire Safe Council. So the president of the Taxpayers Association, a couple of the fire safe councils had asked me to help them with the insurance issue. The Taxpayers Association of El Dorado County, we wrote a letter to the insurance commissioner. They asked for comments related to the catastrophe modeling and rate making proposal that is coming out of the insurance commissioner's office. This has been over the last month that this activity is going on. And so when we hear people talk about insurance, there is things happening on that level, but it's out of that office. And if you don't comment, then you will not get your thoughts included in the during the comment period. So I just want you to be successful, but I want you to be up to date with what's happening. Thank you for the time.
David.
Big shout out to Angel bringing in that additional group Sundance Trail. Got a $69,000 of investment, which we could use immediately for our renewal for the Pasco Northwest Firewise communities. Plus, so sometimes when you add some more people, you get help. Also, Fort Jim, Texas Hill, Coloma. When I'm going through the reports Jessica's given to me, I keep on seeing stuff that doesn't fit in my fire safety council, but there's a bunch of dollars in chipping, defensible space, hazardous tree removal that you can use too. So if you want to send me an email, and I'll send you her reports if you haven't got it from Jessica. But that puts us over the top for our firefighters investment. Thank you. And thanks to Angel's husband Greg for showing up at the event also. You're welcome.
Thank you, David. That was well said. Other reports? I see Karen. Sorry, it's kind of dark back there.
Then we heard from contract. Apple. Taking forward block party is about that area. To celebrate that.
Thank you, Karen. I missed someone miss somebody else.
Just like
Oh, Elizabeth, sorry. I don't have to carry those back.
Ken.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Bruce, yeah.
I just.
So hard here. Basically now, so we get. 16 and 17. But one thing that she discovered that sort of helps pack those bins, while we had 4 bins on order, we go out and rent chipper for one day. And we come in with all those extra brush things, you chip them. It certainly compacts the amount that we take in. And we haven't tipped the scales against us yet, but surely they're weighing us. And so far we've escaped. At any rate, we're looking forward to another successful. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Greater Cameron Park Area Fire Safe Council, we've just got another neighborhood Firewise, and there's another one in the works, so we're moving forward there.
Cute. It's like a patience test.
I know it is.
Okay, anyone else? All right. So down to item 10, public comment. Anything for the good of the order under public comment that hasn't been covered under an associate council? We'll start here and then we'll go to Alice. Or vice versa. All right. Go ahead, Alice, and then we'll move over here.
See it. Between now and the next meeting. Right.
Correct.
Question. So, when Chris was mentioning that he was advocating to the insurance commissioner concerning that be modeling, what is, as individual fire safe councils, are there rules on what we can and can't advocate for?
I think you can certainly engage and talk about things that are impacting councils and what's important to you. I think if you look at the bylaws, where it starts crossing the line is where you're advocating for any sort of political position or office, elected office, or something that will bring discredit to the fire safe council, if you will, i.e. the whole idea is that we're a trusted source. So I think if you ever have a question, let's just bring it forward and we can have a quick discussion, because we also are the trusted voice. And so if we know of the issues occurring and we want to bring those forward, we can certainly do that. It's just when we're talking insurance, it is very political, right? So we just have to be careful as to when we're looking at what position we're taking on something, is it political or is it really based in what the issues we're facing and informational? Yep. Yep. Okay, back here. Bring a microphone. Yeah, please bring that with you, sir. Well, it's for the people online.
I'd like to give you this, talk about this and pass it around. No, okay. Thank you. See, my name is Harvey. Chris and I have been saying about so we're well. We know each other. And what I talk about real quick. Fire danger.
Ernie, could you turn his microphone back on?
Okay, and please, sir, keep in mind 3 minutes. Okay.
My purpose is to talk about the problem at the fire area next to the, at the, South Taylor here. At the corner of Union Ridge, Carson Road, fire service area, U.S. Forest Service, and Cal Fire has gone in and put the sign up in front, one of their staging areas or whatever it is. Now, but my problem is, I passed the pictures around, is that there is a bunch of dead trees. There's more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That whole area is completely overgrown. Now, that's across the street from Ingle Acres. Down the road. And 4 pictures I gave her to tell that. And with all the overburden, my concern is I live right up the road. Not so much about my safety, but what are we going to have when you have a crowd full of people coming to Apple Hill? And there's a fire that starts in that area. And we all know how impacted it gets when people get quite scared. And we're not going to be able to get fire equipment in. So that is a real problem in the area. So go along with that. What do we do about that? Okay, we're Fire Safe Council. You guys are exempt. You're all volunteers. Okay, you work very well. You've done a lot. I've been associated with a few of them. So what it comes down to is, what do we want to happen? Okay, well, we can have a Caldor fire, which was for Sheriff Johnny D, who would have lost their lives. The Tampa fire that brings up 30 got burned out. How many people got killed there? 85, 86. The tunnel fire, which everybody knows that. The Oakland Hills, which everybody that got caught in that one. So my concern is, if we have a fire, we got areas coming up now where we're gonna wind divided. But it's 30 Friday, Saturday, something like that. What happens if that's packed full of thousands of cars and thousands of people? And one of those knuckleheads throws a cigarette butt at them. Make you do that. Good luck. So what are you going to do? Well, so I'm going to challenge you people. Not so much you, but Cal Fire and Forest Service. Because that starts there and a bunch of people go. What's going to happen to the thought about El Dorado County, Apple Hill? What's going to township is great, but so my suggestion is you get that 30 states. This young lady tells me she has some stuff, something that she has money to get rid of hazardous trees. Thank you. El Dorado County just put a hilltop. You got up to 380,000 for emergency tree removal. What's in Cal Fire? They go up to Brownsburg, bring down their crews. Forest Service gets top shots. Slide Park. You know, all the guys that are around at Fresh Pond, put them to work. Something's got to be done, and not this weekend, but next week. That is definitely going to be packed because everybody wants to get pumpkin pies. So my fear is we're going to go out there and get a bunch of cars burned out. What happens when you have burned out cars? Everybody gets out.
Well, great. Well, we've hit the 3, but thank you. Thank you for the comment. Any other public comment? All right, before we adjourn, just a couple quick notes. So remember, 1 o'clock here, CWPP workshop, informal discussion. Encourage everyone to be there. Our next meeting is November 20th, right here. And don't forget, we are, just for planning purposes, we are dark in December. So just put that on the calendar. So again, thank you everybody for being here today. Meeting adjourned.
Quick question regarding frequency. No, remember that comes in